Hey, I'm Katie Johnson, and we are back with another stepped up layout video. So I like to keep a copy of layouts that I've used that worked out really pretty with the choice of product that I used. But really, it's all about the layout and how you have a pattern, a design for where you want to place things, and then it's a matter of, well, what do you want to place? Now, this month I'm kind of featuring butterflies. So this was last week's stepped up layout, a simple layout, and then we just added some layers. And really that's all it's about, is adding layers. So I have 2 more pages and we're going to add 2 more images. So for starters, this yellow piece of paper is a standard card size. It's a 1/4 sheet of paper, which means it's 4 1/4 across by 5 1/2 tall. Today's layout is going to be extremely simple. It's going to feature a sentiment and it's going to feature 2 images. So my sentiment for this card, I'm going to put it not right in the center. I'm going to move it down a little bit. That's going to be part of the plan for today. So this is where my sentiment will go. And then to add interest for the card, I'm going to put 2 images, 2 matching images as focal points. Now you could do anything you want. You could bring in 2 hearts. Well, not this one, it's a little bit too big. You could bring in 2 flowers. On today's project, I'm actually going to feature butterflies. So these are actually just copy paper, but if you keep a layout book, one thing I like to do is I use Post-it notes. Now you can't really punch a Post-it note with a single layer. It doesn't really work very well, but if you punch 2 at a time, it works out real well. So again, you could use 2 foliage leaves of any, you get the idea. You can just come in and use any shape you want. This is the absolute basic design that we're going to work with. This is going to be the left-hand side of my book. Now, we're going to step it up because this Monday video now is all about taking a simple layout and adding some extra layers to it. So the first thing I'm going to do for a layer is I'm just going to add a strip over here, and by the time we're done making today's projects, you are going to be wowed and amazed at the difference that the addition of a simple strip of paper as a highlight can make for your ultimate final project. All right, let me get my sentiment on here and add my 2 little butterflies. What I like to do with butterflies, because remember this month is all about butterflies, what I like to do, you can glue them on flat and they look fine flat, but I like to use my thumb and just take where that body is and add a little bit of dimension to it. And wow, you guys, this will really step up your projects. All right, you've seen me putting my book together with this glue, which is just a tape runner. It's a little wide for the back of the butterflies, but I also just want to put the adhesive on the body of the butterflies. And then we will get to today's project. So this book is going to grow. You're going to see the left-hand side, the simple idea, the right-hand side, adding layers to really step up a project. Now, just as I said, you could use any shape, hearts, stars, flowers, whatever. You can also, these could be stamped images. They don't have to be layers like you saw me adding to that yellow piece of paper. This doesn't have to be a plain colored piece of cardstock. It could be an embossed piece of cardstock. It could be a piece of designer paper. It could be glimmer paper, whatever you have in your stash. And it doesn't have to be this exact dimension. The sentiment doesn't have to be on a little square. You could put it on a pretty label. You get the idea. This is just about, I've got 4 parts, and how am I going to lay those 4 parts out on a piece of paper? Okay, let's look at today's project. So I said this month is all about butterflies, and this is the set that I'm featuring this month, Sketched Butterflies. It's got a bunch of different orientations and sizes of the butterfly. This one's a swallowtail, this one's in profile. This one is a single stamp with a little flurry of them. And then the sentiments are pretty generic. It's a thinking of you, a birthday, and a thank you, and then a couple of others. But this is just a fun stamp set to work with, and even more fun when it comes with a set of coordinating dies. Now you'll notice some of these dies have little lines and open spaces in them, and some of them the whole thing is open. That's because these large open ones are framelets. They are framing a stamped image, and we'll cut that out. And then the others are little detail dies over here. And you saw me keeping a layout book, with ideas of layouts that work for me that I want to remember, I also make a page for myself of every set of dies. Now, I have one more thing to say about this before we move on to today's project, and that's the fact that this month, this is June of 2024, this month there's a sale on die bundles. Stampin' Up! Has a sale on die bundles. It's an extra 10% off of any of these bundles, and the bundles are already 10% off because you can buy these two things individually, but if you buy them as a bundle, you get 10%, and now this month you get an extra 10%. And guess what? There's also a 10% sale on the die cut machine if you don't have one yet. So, just saying. All right, let's take a look then at today's problem. Here's my butterfly stamp. I just picked out the little one. And here's my sentiment. So what I had said was it could be just stamped. So I'm going to put my sentiment down here. Remember that we're building. And then we're going to add 2 butterflies. Okay, so there's the basic layout. And I'm sure at this point you're looking at that and thinking, wow, that is really plain. We definitely need to layer that up with something. One thing you can layer it up with is color. So let's see what this looks like if we go ahead and color it. Well, that certainly makes a difference, doesn't it? Adding layers of color to the project. What if I layered a little bow on here? And what if I added a few rhinestones to it? That could look really pretty. Let's hold that thought for just a moment, because I'd like to talk about the markers before we go on any farther. These are rectangular markers. For those of you who are familiar with Stampin' Up! Product, you're going to go, oh yeah, I know that. But for those of you who are not, let me just explain something really quickly. So this one is rectangular. This is what we call a blends. These are alcohol-based markers. Stampin' Up! Also sells a round version of this. These are the classic markers. Now the difference between them is that people who like to color a lot are going to want to use the alcohol markers because you can get a lot more subtle shading on it. I didn't do much of that on this butterfly. I could have used the round one except that, and now that's why I still have this ink pad out here. So Stampin' Up! Sells 2 black ink pads. This is the Memento ink and this is the Stays-On ink. The reason that I colored with the blends is because I stamped in Memento. These 2 inks go together. This is the Stays-On ink pad, which I did not use when I stamped my images, and this is where you're going to want to use the round markers. I had not intended to do an ink lesson today, but it just evolved into the filming of this project. So Stays-On is non-water soluble. These are water soluble inks, and so this is the combination that you want so that when you stamp your image, your water soluble ink isn't making the like butterfly and the words bleed. So these 2 go together. I stamped this image in Memento. Memento is a different sort of ink that is, I guess it's a solvent-based ink. I'm not sure what that is. Bottom line is, this is the ink that you want to use on these markers, in part because they play well together, but in part because the Stays-On ink, if you use this one, it could actually damage the tips of these markers, so you don't want to do that. All right, another thing to know, however, about the Memento ink a little bit, but more so about these markers. Let's look at the inside of this. Ooh, that's pretty too, isn't it? But perhaps not what you were looking for. These inks are like a Sharpie. A Sharpie is an alcohol marker, and so they bleed through. So this is fine, but maybe instead of doing this, maybe what we want to do is to cut this down. We're talking layers, and use that as a layer on a card. I just cut my card, and you'll see what I did was I cut it down a little bit in size so that now I could take a different card base and I could layer this up. And when someone opens the card and looks on the inside, they won't see all that coloring. So let's just finish this one off real quickly. I'm going to bring my glue dots back in here because this is going to be a great adhesive to use on this little bow that I tied. So let's just put this on the back. I like it because it's a small amount of adhesive, but also because it's kind of gummy and it's like silly putty, so you can mold it and shape it so that it will take up just exactly the space where you want it. Add a couple of little rhinestones. Need a little bit of sparkle on here, and this will finish off this card really nicely. Okay, so there's our basic layout, right? We've got a sentiment, we've got two things, and we just blinged it up a little bit by adding color and by adding the ribbon on here. All right, let's see if we can do something else, but this time instead of layering with color, what if I layered it with die cuts? So I stamped my sentiment down low according to the plan, but this time instead of stamping the butterflies on, what if I use one of these die cuts? What if I use this really pretty little detailed die over here? And this is what it looks like when it's cut out. Isn't it gorgeous? And you see I'm changing things up a little bit here. Instead of putting my butterflies this way, I'm putting my butterflies that way. Quick little hint on here, I just caught this out of the corner of my eye. One of the pieces didn't punch out all the way. Can you see it? Giving you just a minute because I'm guessing that you might be searching and going, where is that one that she thinks didn't punch out? But when you flip it over to the back, then it's pretty obvious. You see this thing here that doesn't belong. So we'll get that out of there, and then we'll double check this one and make sure. Oh, so look at that. I didn't even notice it when I was holding it, but there's a bunch of these that didn't pop out. So we'll just hit them with my take your pick tool and get those out. So a helpful hint there. Look at, turn it over from the back, especially on the glitter paper. It may be less obvious, but if you turn it over to the back, you'll see if there's anything left in the holes. All right, these are pretty skinny little pieces though, aren't they? So getting adhesive on there might be a little bit of a challenge. And in some circumstances, I might put this butterfly on flat. But you know what? I love the look of a butterfly with a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to bring in those glue dots again for adhering it on here. If you mail this card, it is going to flatten down a little bit in the mail, but that's okay. It'll just have a little bit of subtle pop left to it by the time that your recipient opens it up and gets it out of the envelope. All right, let's get these on here, and then we'll see if it needs anything else, because I'll tell you, this glimmer paper, have you got glimmer paper in your stash, or foil paper? Or even if you've got like a designer paper that's got a bunch of different like haphazard designs on it, not something where somebody would look at the die cut image and try to figure out what the image was, but if it's just got a bunch of random colors on it, that could look really pretty. All right, to my eye, this does need a little bit, so I am going to use my go-to. I keep these guys in my stash all the time. Tell me how many packages of rhinestones you have, and more to the point, tell me how many packages of rhinestones you go through in a year. Oh my goodness. I usually buy them 2 at a time. All right, but look at the difference the rhinestones make on there. They just really complement things. If you're looking for a quick, simple project, there it is, right? That is pretty enough to send. So once again, there is my simple layout made, just stamping and layered up with the additional colors, layered up by taking that front piece and turning it into an actual card layer. And this one, we just layered it up a little bit by adding some die cuts on there. And by the way, you could fussy cut these images and just glue them on as well. And we've got a framelit in that set that would have cut that out. All right, are you ready for how can we add this extra piece and what difference will that make? All right, I've pulled in a card front, and I've pulled in a layer to use over here. Now that's going to definitely impact my ability to use a stamped sentiment. I suppose I could put a stamped sentiment off to the side. However, I'm prepared to do something different. I'm prepared to layer this up with a set of layering word dies. So Stampin' Up! Sells this set called Wanted to Say. And there are all kinds of things that you might want to say. You might want to say happy birthday. You might want to say feel better soon. You might want to say you are so kind. And today I'm going to say you are celebrate, because it's going to be for your birthday. So when I look at these things, you're going to see that there are matching sets of dies. And what those are intended is for you to die cut the words skinny. And then you've got like a bubble that you can lay them on, a layering piece. There are 4 sentiments. You're too kind, celebrate, happy birthday, feel better soon. Important to note as you're imagining yourself gluing these things on, this feel better soon comes out as all one piece. Celebrate, of course, is just one word. Happy birthday. If you look real closely here, the P's are not connected to the word below. So these come out as 2 separate words, which means you could easily just die cut the word happy and use it for happy anything, not necessarily happy birthday. And then this one, you're too kind, again, is 3 separate words. So maybe you can start to spell some little phrases out of this as well. I have to tell you one other thing that just delights me about this set, and that's the fact that the I is connected. The dot on the I is connected, and the apostrophe is connected. So I don't have these little teeny pieces to try to track. I really like that. Hey, look at this. It also comes with a bunch of other things. So here is my word happy, all cut by itself. The square piece down here is a package, which you can make either horizontal or vertical. It comes with a little bow that you can put on top of the package. It comes with a string of valentines or hearts, and they are connected. And look close. Can you see how there's little lines on there? These guys aren't just going to die cut. They're going to embellish with lines, emboss with lines as they die cut. The stars, this group of stars comes out as a full piece. And again, there's little lines in them. The flower, the stem. And then you may be saying, wait a minute, what about that extra little star? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Where'd that little star come from? Guess what? It's the center of the flower. So you could even use that if you wanted to make a star-filled sky. I love these. If you're looking for a set of word dies, I just love the idea of taking these die-cut words and then having a little bubble behind them. And of course, they can look fine just by themselves too, right? It doesn't need to have the framing layer behind it. Okay, so I'm going to use the word celebrate today. So I'm going to use the word celebrate today, and I already have it die cut down here. And I've got these little butterflies as well, all ready to go. Looks nice, right? Looks like it's okay. Let's bling this up a little bit. So this is just plain cardstock. I'm going to make it a little bit more special, and I'm actually going to use a piece that is embossed. Can you see the embossing in there? So for that one, I use the Fern embossing folder because I figure butterflies, they need to have a little bit of floral behind them. I'm also going to add some other things to this as well, as long as we're talking about layers and turning this into a super well. This is a tall area on my card, and so what I decided to do here was to use the Flowers of Beauty dies. Now there is a matching stamp set. I'm not using the stamp set on here. Ooh, remember the bundle though. The bundle's sale this month. So if you like these images, there's a lot of dies in here that are framelets, and they would die cut a stamped image, but I decided that I was just going to use these tall dies right here. So I've got them already die cut, and again, you know, you look at your stash and you see what kind of tall flowery images you have, because flowers and butterflies go together, right? And now I hope you're looking at what I've got laid out here and going, ooh, this is going to be a really amazing project by the time we're done. So again, this video is all about taking one simple concept for 4 parts and then figuring out what can you add. You don't have to start with a complicated idea. You start with a simple idea. You say, what can I add to make it a little bit more? So there's my my embossed piece of paper. Here are my 2 floral die cuts. We're going to add those on here. Now, I like to use this tweezers that has a little bit of a bend in it, and I know people always ask me and say, where did you get that? Well, I was a biology major in college, and so that was from a dissecting kit. When you get old and you retire, graduate from college, and you're not doing dissecting classes anymore, you got all this extra stuff and use it for your craft supplies. And okay, don't mean to be facetious here. You can also get them online on Amazon. I actually checked it out because I've got a group of people, and I purchased them from my favorite science supply company. I will give a shout out to that because I'm in Wisconsin, and they are in Wisconsin, but NASCO Supply carries this product as well. Okay, I'm going to angle this in a way that I get maximum visibility on the layers here. And then you could take a block and just put a little weight on it to hold it while it dries. It doesn't take too long. So this needs to be raised up because it's got 3 different layers of cardstock that it's sitting on, and so it's just going to look a little bit wobbly. I'm going to bring in some dimensionals. Do these look interesting to you? These are tiny ones. We sell 2 different sizes of dimensionals, and I think the larger regular ones would have fit just fine on here, but I'm going to use the smaller ones on this project. And in fact, I'm going to cut down even one of these smaller ones. I'm going to cut just a little bit off the edge. Hope I made it small enough because I want to put it on this thin edge of the word C on the side. I'm going to use my pokey tool on here because that will let me position it, and I can actually curve it just a little bit because the foam is very flexible. All right, let's get these guys on here. Ooh, is this butterfly project turning out really, really cool? So now we're going to lay our word on here, and I want to leave enough room for that other butterfly. So I'm going to bring that in and just make sure that I'm still trying to stick to the original plan. So this works. All right, and we'll add these butterflies. Look at that. There were still some that I missed. Remember, you're going to see them from the back. You won't necessarily see them from the front. Whoops, there's 2 more. And a couple of rhinestones. Instead of stamping, begin to add some layers with some bling and some ribbon. So let me know in the comments what you learned from this. I always like to know the ways in which I have been helpful and useful to you. And if you did like this and think that more of this would be useful and you want to make sure you get notified, then if you haven't already, turn the notifications on. Take a minute and do that now, because that will ensure that when I come on with projects like this or post stuff midweek, that you'll get notified about it. Okay, one more thing before I go away, and that's the fact that the Stampin' Up! Sale for June 2024 is an extra 10% off of all die bundles and 10% off of either of the cut and emboss machines. We have the regular size one and we have a cute little mini version. You can see it all by going to bit.ly/shop Stampin'Up, no apostrophe or exclamation point or anything in there, bit.ly/shop Stampin'Up, and that will bring you right into my store. And as a gift for anybody who makes a purchase this month, I'm going to send a free PDF on all orders this month that has over 24 different ideas for ways to use butterflies on projects. Hey, message me with questions and I will put links to the product that I used today in the description or maybe in the first comment. Thanks for watching. I'm Katie Johnson, and we'll catch you next week with another addition to the layout book. Bye for now.